Welcome back to the Sports Source, this segment brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. We're going to have some days in the 60s this week, and that means spring is on the way. So go ahead and call Southeast Termite and Pest Control right now about termite inspections, termite treatments, mosquito treatments, all those things that you have to do to protect your home, protect your family when the warm weather comes. Get ready for it now. SoutheastTermite.com is where you can learn more about this great locally owned business. More than 50 years they've been doing it. I can tell you again, this is who I use. They do a great job for me. Southeast Termite and Pest Control. All right, last week we discussed, I'm going to have to do a little reading here for you to get everybody up to speed. Last week we discussed the fact that the FBS conferences couldn't come up with an agreement to expand the college football playoff. We also put the blame on the SEC's land grab with Texas and Oklahoma. This week, Mike Oresco, the commissioner of the AAC, told The Athletic, quote, let's face it, realignment and the alliance, which was the Big Ten, ACC, and Pac-12, all banding together to fight Greg Sankey, they kind of threw a wrench into things. So that was the issue. The Athletic also reported that Sankey was naturally ticked that his 12-team plan that he and Bob Bowlesby had worked on for years got nixed, so he's angry. Andy Staples, also of The Athletic this week, suggested that Sankey technically could take his ball and go home and say, we're doing our own playoff. We don't need the rest of the country. We have the best players. We have all the draft picks. We get all the money. We're going to have our own 8-team playoff in the SEC. And 4-team or 8-team, but 8-team makes more sense because it's more games, more money. My question for you guys is, that is a long way down the road. I don't know that it's realistic. But if the SEC and Greg Sankey, out of spite, and I'm a big fan of spite, if they said, you know what, we're doing our own playoff, and if you want to claim that Notre Dame beating New Mexico is your national champion, we'll take the Alabama-Georgia winner or the Oklahoma-LSU winner. Would you guys be immediately opposed to such a thing, or would you be open to the idea of an 8-team all-SEC playoff?
Boy, cavaliersing it, I'm in the middle.
Now, binary choice. Are you open to it, or you're either open to it or you're not?
I would be open to it, yes.
Okay. Vince,
I've got many questions.
Okay, Vince,
yes,
you had a
open.
look.
Yeah, I'd say no. I don't want that. That's not the best for college football. We already have so many things that are kind of taken away from the sport, and now you start to super regionalize it. Yes, it's the best conference, but part of the other branches to this that I've seen is, yeah, the SEC would do their own playoff, but start plucking the best of other conferences and then add it to a major super conference. That would maybe be a little bit more digestible, but man, let's make it the best of all of college football. So I wouldn't be a fan of it.
Probably as a last resort, right? I mean, if that was your only option, right. if you couldn't get this thing figured out, then I would say, well, that's better than nothing.
And let's be honest, this is a threat by Greg Sankey.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Well,
You're into vengeance as much as I am.
Yeah, hey, these parties don't get along, right? That's not in question here. So if that continues, get nuts. Start your own tournament, because it was titled what, the SEC versus all y'all.
Yeah.
So why not? I'm a Sports Talk radio host, so thanks for the content that it would provide as well. But I would be, because you would get great football out of an SEC tournament.
Oh yeah.
I would want to see the SEC winner versus the best of the rest.
And that's
you need some kind of agreement to make that.
And I didn't mention that. That was Andy Staples' idea. Was if you did this, then you'd have all the other conferences, the big boy conferences, the alliance would all get together, maybe the Big 12 too, and they'd do their playoff, and then eventually you'd get to what the Super Bowl was initially, where it was old AFL versus NFL. In this case, it would be the SEC's champ would then go play the champion of this other playoff. Problem is, you're getting into an awful lot of games.
There's a lot of games for college players, yeah.
But as goofy as this system is, and as goofy as college football has been over the years, as silly as this sounds, I don't think you can write it off. I think anything's possible.
Where's the money?
Yeah, and it's also
a truckload of it with that.
If you're the SEC, where's the money? Vince is absolutely right. That's the reason I was in the middle of this was, do you make it too much of a regional thing and you write off everybody else? And I think that's a real big problem with it. But in the end, does the SEC and the SEC schools benefit from doing this? And if the answer is yes,
And you
I think it
also,
already is regional.
you also hear it's the other conferences against anything Greg Sankey and the SEC is for.
Right.
No matter what it is right now. And they're just playing into the SEC hands. You're going to still end up getting teams in the, in the mix for those 4 spots.
If you look at the TV ratings this year, and I think this was the Athletic as well. Somebody wrote a piece 2 or 3 weeks ago that went through and looked at all the biggest games. It's like 90 out of 100 of the biggest college football games this past year in terms of ratings were SEC and Big Ten.
Yeah.
That's it. So the ACC is kind of the southern part cares about football. The far west, they don't care. They don't care. The Big 12 zone, sure they care, but their best teams are coming here. Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma. And if you asked any of the others, would they come? They'd immediately come. I think it already is regional. I get what your point. You hate to see it go further in that direction. But I listen to a lot of Boston sports radio, and let me tell you, they do not mention college sports at all, ever. Mm-hmm. And I lived in Columbus, Ohio for a while. They talked about Ohio State. They talked about the Big Ten. They never talked about UCLA. They never talked about Alabama. It was all Ohio State versus Michigan, 99 days out of 100. So I just think it is a regional thing already, and some of the regions show that they don't care in terms of their ratings.
Well, if you're going to have champion SEC champ versus champion everybody else, wouldn't you still need to have an agreement for that? So they'd still have
You'd have to
come together in some degree.
figure something out. But would it be easier to figure out the profits from one game as opposed to the profits and who's at home and who does and who gets does the Rose Bowl? This would be the SEC's way to say, take your Rose Bowl and stick it. We don't have if you go play your Rose Bowl as the champion of your silly playoff. We'll play you somewhere else in the middle of the country for the absolute title. I think there are less hoops to jump through for one game than there would be a 12-team playoff.
Look at the ratings for the SEC championship game.
Tops.
They were huge,
Yeah.
monsters. Look at the ratings for the other conference championship game.
Perfect world, they work it all out. You get a 12-team playoff.
Yeah. Right.
Or I would do an 8-team playoff. But perfect world, you get a real playoff. If you don't do it, I don't have a problem with this. But let's take a look at what it would look like. Because remember, Oklahoma and Texas are coming. What would an 8-team SEC-only playoff look like if you took all the teams in the SEC and seeded them by all-time winning percentage, which means, Tennessee fans, you're going to be in the bracket. Come on back and we'll show you.